don't forget we can edit. Okay, so don't be sort of stressing. Goodness, yeah. Okay, right. So, hi everyone. My name is Helen Frank. I'm a NES Health practitioner. I'm also a member of the NES Health team. I am absolutely delighted to welcome the gorgeous Joan Broderick onto this podcast with me today. I've known Joan for a few years, and we actually met because of NES Health. Joan has got such an amazing story to share with everybody about her journey into health and wellness and how she helps people like you and me. So stay tuned because we've got some really great information to share. So I'm just going to pass straight over to Joan. So morning, Joan, thank you for coming on to the call with me. So can you just, give everyone a sort of quick overview of, who you are, what you do?
Hi, Ellen. Thanks for that. Yeah. I come from a psychology background. I'm a psychotherapist, a holistic counsellor, and I work with energy medicine. And I'm absolutely fascinated with quantum physics, which is a study of energy. And I've been doing this for around 30 years. This was after I had a difficult time with my daughter, giving birth to her, who was born with many abnormalities. She ended up in intensive care. She had heart surgery after 4 weeks. Brain surgery and other surgeries. And at the time, I remember when they handed her to me, she had a cleft lip as well. And so all her mouth was open. So I just looked at her and I thought, oh my God, what's wrong with my daughter? And they whisked her away. And I'm looking at her, I'm examining her in the room, and my whole body went into shock and I started shaking. And I kept looking at my child thinking, what's going on? What's happening? And the doctors were around me doing whatever they were doing. And so you can imagine the fear, the emotions, the anxiety, the guilt that came out of this. And back then, I didn't know what trauma was. So I must have been going through trauma then. So I didn't know what it were. So the doctors put me on antidepressants, Helen.
So just sort of quickly going back, because that's a huge amount of information to sort of share straight away. And I just want to sort of, just kind of reiterate to people really that a lot of people who find a passion for health and wellness and, or an alternative way of looking at health and wellness often come into this field because they've experienced some emotional trauma in their lives. So, and I know I'm with you. I was like, I haven't suffered anything on your scale personally, but until I had recognised that there was some form of trauma, I didn't even know what that was. I mean, it was like, what is this new word, trauma? What does that actually mean to people? So I kind of, and what you've just described and what you went through, it's hardly surprising that you do what you do now, and how and you do what you do now so well, and how you help other people. So can you sort of, I mean, obviously, sort of like it's a fast forward really, isn't it, from sort of 30 plus years ago, for your daughter, but at the time, going through all of that emotional stress, trauma, it's hardly surprising that you started looking for things, isn't it? So what was your first sort of, call of action really?
Well, my first call of action was, what's wrong with me? Because the doctors, I went to doctors and they put me on antidepressants and anxiety pills, and which didn't help. I thought I was having a breakdown. I thought I'm having a breakdown. My health deteriorated. And I thought to myself, there has to be an answer somewhere. I can't just go on this medication because it just numbed me. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know whether I was coming or going. And I thought there has to be something else out there. So I spent years studying different therapies for myself and my daughter. We travelled around, we had a great time. In the end, it became an amazing journey.
Yeah.
And that's where I've come into it all now, because it was such an amazing journey. I learned so much from different people and different therapists and other people's stories. And then I was introduced to energy medicine. So it got me in a deeper discovery of self-discovery of healing. visiting all the health energy practitioners. I did a lot of research, and I trained in Ian White's energy medicine, which are remedies for the emotions. And I thought, wow, remedies for the emotions, I need them all. And so I became a practitioner in that. And then I went on to reading Bruce Lipton's and Joe Dispenza's books, which they're leading scientists in quantum physics. And this is a study of energy medicine, Helen. So I got the books.
Yeah, sorry, Joan. I feel like I'm interrupting you, but I was like, when you said Joe Dispenza and Drew Slipped, I'm like, oh, I've got some of their books. You know, and it's for me, I think it's a great, you know, anyone who's interested in finding out more, you know, there's some fantastic information out there now. So is there a particular, you know, what was your starting book? What would be your one to go to?
For people, I would go for the Joe Dispenza, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. It's a fantastic book. He talks about science behind it, but he talks about how we have habits and how we become a habitual person. So what's happening in our childhood and how our life's gone, it can become a habit. And it's not really who we really are deep inside. It's not our soul. It's not us. It's just it's the behavior and what's happened to us, how it's shaped us. And then we become the habit of being ill or in pain or over emotional or under emotional or numb. So this has kind of made us into who we are, but it's not really who we are. This has formed our personality. And that's how he goes into it in the book. He talks about how we form our personality and how we can change the way we are and how we can change our health. And that's what I love about his books.
Was it this one?
Yeah, that one.
This one I found on my shelf earlier. Yeah,
that's it, brilliant.
Yeah. I would definitely recommend this as a sort of a good starting point for people. You know, just to kind of like that journey of sort of self-discovery, really, isn't it? So that is a particularly interesting book to read. Quite a thick book, but it's one of those books when you start reading it, you can't put it down.
That's right, and I'm glad you're on that book, Helen. You're going to find a massive difference, because he had meditations around that book as well that you can get, and I think their meditations are fantastic as well. And I don't know enough about the NES side of the meditations yet, because that's coming out later on. So, but one of the tools that I want to talk about that helped me on my journey as well was I came across the NES system, which you and I do, and I just think, wow, there's a system that scans all these energy, all these frequencies in the body, and it's a bioenergetic system. It actually scans the body. Where I'm trying to work it out psychologically and emotionally, and we're talking, and the NES system, you just scan the body and it tells you what's going on in the system. Yeah. So what I did was then I watched all videos. I thought, I've got to know more about this. And I now made the connection with quantum physics and NES and how it can help heal the body. Alongside the meditations and the NES stuff. So I thought, whoa, I've really got to go further into this study and research more. So coming from the science background, I asked my family if they'd be my guinea pigs, which they were great. They came along, and I explained the NES system to them. I explained the pharmaceuticals that I'm talking about. I explained the My Health, how that works with them. So they got they got benefit from it. My sister Margaret, she had a back problem, and we looked at her back problem. I scanned her, and her digestive system come up, and I thought, oh, I would have thought the back would have come up, but it was a digestive system. And I thought, oh, I better ring Helen. I better ring Helen to see what she has to say about this. Can you remember, Helen?
I do remember that call. It's really interesting, because this is like, you know, this is been my sort of journey of discovery as well, because I hadn't realized until a few years ago that when you correct elements in the spine, so you know, everything sort of running down the spine actually connects with an organ system in the body. So when someone is, you know, presenting with, you know, acid reflux, heartburn, you know, whatever you want to call it, bloating or whatever, often we clear the distortions or those energy pathways in the spine, and that then heals that. So, you know, and it's just, people carry so much emotional stress in the musculoskeletal and down that spinal column. It's just incredible. So, you know, the MyHealth that you just showed is such a neat way of helping to address health concerns very, very quickly. You know, and I know you've got some, you know, fantastic testimony, especially, you know, your family. I know I think the whole of your family have now got their own MyHealth because it just didn't work out with trying to share one, did it?
No, because Margaret's back went from an 80 pain to a 20% pain, and so then the other bits are like an energetic thing in our family. We've all got back issues, and so my sister's like, oh, well, let me have a go. And so my other sister had her go, and then my brother, and it became like we all need one. So we all bought one together.
Yeah.
And so it was great. And so then we decided that we were going to go down to do the training. So we did the video trainings, and then we're going down to Poole. I was going to go down to Poole, and Margaret wanted to come with me, and then my other brother and sister wanted to come. So we thought, let's all go. So they were all intrigued with it as well. So we all went together, which is fantastic. And that's when we met you, Helen.
Yeah. It was actually, you know, I'm just going to quickly go back to Margaret, because I don't know whether you said on here or not, but Margaret is, she works for the NHS, doesn't she? So she works for, is she a paramedic or an ambulance driver?
She helps a ambulance. She works with the crew. She helps, she drives the ambulance, but she helps with the patients as well.
Yeah, okay. So when you think about what Margaret does, you know, every day, and that's her sort of her main occupation, when we just go back to, you know, the fact she got, you know, she had chronic back pain, and we were able to reduce that from 10 down to a score of 2 quite quickly. When you think about the elements of stress that she has to put up with every day, so that's not the right expression, that she's exposed to every day.
Yeah.
So I would imagine when they're going to collect people from their homes and transport them to the hospital, it's not, oh, we're going for a day out, is it? No. You know, it's an element of trauma and stress, and she's, in effect, she's taking on an element of that every day from people, and then obviously with her colleagues that she's working with. So it's hardly surprising, you know, when you did that initial scan, the NES scan for her, that the digestive system came up, because it was all sitting in that area of the body. And because of the stress she was carrying in her spine, her digestive organs were not able to work effectively. Yeah. You know, so that score of 8, you know, from 10 down to 2 was probably not just pain, but well-being as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and they say when you're in stress, your body, your digestive system closes down, and anyway, because it starts working with the other organs to work the muscles, and so that stops your digestive system working as it should do. So and that Margaret's lifting and carrying the patients, and she works with psychological patients as well, so she might be bringing them from one hospital to another, and she's got to talk to them and keep them calm, and so there's a lot more in the background than we realize in that job that she's doing. So yeah, it is interesting that it was her digestive system and her back, because she's lifting patients as well. So
yeah, absolutely. And then you both just will put it down to sort of being more sort of physical rather than emotional, but I think the combination of the two, I think, is definitely what happened in her situation. But then, you know, generally when we train people to become nurse practitioners, it's usually just that person that comes for training. So you guys were kind of like really unique, because the whole family turned up for the training, which was like, oh, hello. But you know what, you guys would, I know it's you're the practitioner, and your brothers and your sisters aren't, but the support that they had for you, and for what you believed in, and it was just incredible that they were there supporting you that weekend. You know, and I just thought, what a lovely family.
Oh, thank you.
You know, and it was just so lovely to sort of have you guys there. You know, and then for us to be able to educate them as well, because I was actually quite surprised how much they actually knew before they, when they came to the training. And I know, you know, they were completely backed you with your decision to become, you know, a NES health practitioner, add that to your 2 other modalities. So yeah. Fantastic.
They were fantastic, because Margaret does it as well part-time, the scans as well. So yeah, fantastic. support from them all, and it's great that I saw their health improve, and that's where I like, you know, that makes it satisfying for me, because I see them improve, and so I think, wow, this is brilliant, you know, stuff.
Yeah, fantastic. So sort of moving on, you know, from, you know, you came to the training. I mean, I just think, you know, your journey so far has just been incredible, but it just gets better and better and better. You know, it's kind of like that, you know, that momentum's building and building and building all the time with you. You know, so I know, you know, we spoke about that since you've had the NES system, how your clients have benefited even more. So can you sort of talk a little bit more about that for us?
Yes, yeah, because coming from the psychology background and the counts and the psychotherapy, and using the NES in my scans, in my therapy, because most people I would be working with would be trauma, emotional distress side of things, and I would scan them and bring the scan in, as well as give them the pharmaceuticals that we mentioned earlier. And I'd explain the NES system to them, and how it can help their progress in therapy, and how it can pinpoint some trauma that we might not be able to notice, and it brings it up for us for discussion, really, for us to explore in therapy, which is a fantastic. I'll just show you my screen. Actually, I'll show you my if I'm okay to share my screen with you, Helen. I'll show it you, because it's going to actually explain a bit more. I'll just
while you're just getting that ready, I'm just going to explain to people that, you know, what we're going to do now. Joan's going to actually share what we call this the NES Health Body Field Scan, and this particular screen that highlights and shows where those priorities are around the emotions within someone's body. So, you know, we talk about the body field, we talk about the energetic body. So we should now see do you want to just make that a little bit?
Yeah, I'm just trying to move things in my way. Sorry, Ellen.
There we go.
Right. Better.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is typically what we call the mind-body screen, and we're getting into what we call the brain holograms. So there's 4 brain holograms. So Joan, you're going to talk specifically about the cerebral medulla hologram. How to get that right then? Yeah.
Yeah, so part of my work is with the trauma and the scans, and I work on the scans on the trauma side of the scans, more the mind body side, because I love that side of it, because it's all my work. There is a physical side, and there's a lot of more on the scan, but I mostly work on this side of it. And what I found is when I did, this is my scan, so when I did my scan, I looked at it, and it came up profound loss. And I looked at the explanation, and it says a past emotional shock, conflict, or turmoil event involving loss of something. This can be loss of parent, loss of pet, loss of child, loss of a limb, operation. And straight away, I connected it with my daughter, and I thought, oh my goodness, how does that know that? How, you know, I thought I worked on that with my daughter. I thought I worked on all that with what I've been doing in my journey. But it still come up, so it still has some resonance of it in my body, and that's where it was holding on to this area of the body.
Yeah.
So my daughter, I lost her a few times. Her heart stopped a few times in front of my eyes. So that would have been, to me, the connection with the profound loss, and the loss of a pet, actually, funny enough, from my childhood, which we'll talk about childhood trauma in a minute. But I lost a pet, this foal, a horse I had, and we had it as a foal, and I grew up with it, and I trained it, and it was my most thing I'd go to when I felt sad, or when I used to go riding. I used to have fun with it. And so this horse died, and my dad said, "Oh, don't get attached to animals. You live on a farm. You know, you can't love animals." And I thought, I'm heartbroken, but I love it. And
too late. Yeah.
It's weird. My dad didn't realize that at the time, but you know, it was just the way he was at the time. Yeah. So yeah, that's how I found. That's where the screen came up for me. I think it's
Okay, so looking at this particular screen, and obviously that's relating back to the ovaries within the physical body, where that perhaps that emotional trauma, that those distortions are being held. So we've got this information that's coming up, and you resonated with that straight away, and I think even you were surprised because you felt as though you'd already worked through and cleared all of that. But a lot of us don't realise actually that things that have happened in our lives actually can manifest as something else later in life. And I know this is something that I discovered a couple of years ago, and I know we work a lot with this about the childhood ACEs. So can you just explain? Because there'll be people on this call that are like, an ace, what's an ace? Is like, is that something that you serve in tennis, which that's what I think it was. Obviously, it's now got a different meaning. But it was really interesting is when you can see that connection with, something that's coming up on the scan and where it is, and think, oh my goodness, that's actually what happened. And to understand that pattern is still sitting in the body. If I'm going to pass back to you because you're the expert here, not me.
Yeah, well, that's where I made the connection on the ACEs with my scan from the horse and the foal. And so what I try and do then is I try and get my clients to, if they need us, if they come with trauma, I try and get them to do the ACE questionnaire. This ACE is called, it's childhood, adverse childhood effects. It's things that's happened to you as a child. So if you've been neglected as a child, you have these ACEs that don't help your development, basically. And so when I teach this client, it empowers them. So and it gives them that empowerment of understanding what's going on in their life.
There's something that happened to someone as a child is, I mean, lots of things happened to me as a child. I'm sure you didn't, very many people on this call. So what are we actually saying? Are we actually saying that things that happened to you perhaps when you were a child is part of who you are now? Is that correct?
Yeah, it forms part of who you are now. And you don't realize it because these ACEs are just what's happened in your childhood. You just think, oh, these things happen. And so they reckon that the ACEs are about neglect when you're a child. And so if you were not nurtured by a family member or a caregiver when you had a trauma or a pet dying or you were lost in a crowd, your little body your mind don't know what to do with it. And if the parent doesn't soothe you at the time, which some parents don't know, my dad didn't know he needed to soothe me at the time. I was just heartbroken. And so he was saying, "Oh, get over it," and I'm like, "I'm heartbroken," And so that was one of my childhood things that happened to me. So parents don't know that, which is it's important that people understand that as when they come to therapy, because then it's not anyone's fault, it's just the way life goes. And if they can pinpoint them traumas, we can discuss them in therapy and it opens up for discussion.
Right, okay, that makes sense. So how do you identify if someone's had childhood traumas then?
Well, you the way you'd know if you had a childhood trauma, well, first of all, you'd have triggers, which the triggers are if a parent got divorced, if you were sexually abused, emotionally abused, physically neglected, there was domestic violence in your family. They're the big ACEs, right? So if they're the ones that can really affect you later on in life. And then you've got these other ACEs, which are silent ACEs. And these ACEs are little things like my pet dying, or racism, or a sexual identity, not knowing what, going to hospital. I don't know if you've had anything like that, Helen.
Well, actually, as you were talking about those, then I'm thinking, goodness gracious me, I had surgery as a child. Yes, we lost pets. I got lost on the beach. I know I can remember my dad having a car accident. We were in the car, you know, so I'm like, wow, okay, I probably had a few already. So yeah, you know, it's I would think many people would probably go, yeah, I've got few, you know, some of those. So I think probably, I don't know many people that probably wouldn't have any.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, have you ever come across somebody who doesn't have any?
No, never. And the study says most people get one or two ACEs, which is fine. You know, we cope, and it depends on the person's personality as well, how they cope with their ACEs. Yeah. So someone could have all these traumas and they're still getting on in life. But people that come to us, or you know, they're the ones that usually have a lot of childhood trauma. So then we have to work with that. And so then this helps us understand what's going on and to dig deeper. And the symptoms, they have the symptoms to look out for if you do have the ACEs are things like self-destructive behavior, loss, not looking after yourself properly, anger but outbursts, anxiety, depression, core shame. There's many different things in boys if they've had a lot of ACEs. And some children are more sensitive than other children, so the boys might have loads of ACEs and they just get on in life and they survive and they're fine. And then some boys, they're so sensitive that they could end up with ADHD or hyperactivity. ADHD is hyperactivity as a child. And then the girls, they would say they disassociate. So the boys might get hyperactivity and get active because of this could be the symptoms, but the girls would disassociate themselves from society, from life, from their body. And later on in life, then the symptoms might come up that they have gut-wrenching feelings, they have difficulty in relationships, they feel alienated, they have a feeling of not belonging. You know, they feel like it's difficult to express their emotions. So there's loads of different things. Self-soothing, they're not able to self-soothe themselves because they didn't know how to do it when they were younger. This then goes into their adulthood. And so this then links back to Joe Dispenza's Changing the Habit of Being Yourself book as well. So you're linking it all in together. So
like all these different things work together, don't they? And it's finding what works for you. So once you've discovered that someone's, you know, got ACEs or had ACEs, I don't know which tense you use that in, what does that actually, you know, could that manifest as something, you know? So yes, you know, we can all have days where we feel perhaps unloved, or sort of, you know, we perhaps criticize ourselves more than what we need to be, or just not feeling like part of the bigger picture really. And you know, or I've met people who are constantly sort of that self-sabotage in relationships, and it's like they kind of repeat these patterns over and over again. Is that sort of part, is that it, or could it manifest as something else?
That's part of it, but it can manifest with your health, your body. So if you've got many ACEs, you could, you know, it affects your health later on. You know, you could get chronic pulmonary diseases, chest problems, strokes. It can manifest as diabetes. So there's loads of illnesses it can manifest as, because the body's not running freely energetically, so it's not healing itself because it's in this state of stress. The mental health side of it is, they say the ACEs, the 4.5% higher of depression, anxiety. People that commit suicide, it's 12 times likely that they would commit suicide than someone that's not had the ACEs. So it's quite sad really in that way. But it does also affect our autoimmune system. And and that's more or less the question you're asking there, isn't it, Ellen?
It is really, because, you know, I mean, I sort of see people with, you know, sort of Crohn's colitis, you know, they've got sort of something developed very strange allergies to different things, and there's no, you know, and any biochemical test they have is like kind of back inconclusive, and like, well, okay, well, something, am I imagining this then? But often it goes back to that emotional connection, isn't it? you know.
Yeah.
So far we've painted a pretty gloomy picture, haven't we? So it's not this podcast is not meant to upset people. It's more, you know,
I know.
to make them aware. So okay, so we've given the really, you know, like the worst case scenarios of childhood trauma and anxiety, and you know, your story. I think a lot of people will, you know, will resonate and appreciate how far you've come in your journey. But there is some good news, isn't there?
Oh, fantastic news, because I think
Good.
it's brilliant, because knowing all that stuff is the tools, knowing it all, educating yourself with it, learning about it, and that's what I'm teaching my clients. And I think it's empowering, because the fantastic side of it is we have all these tools. We understand what's gone on in our childhood now, and so we know what's happening now. If we didn't understand what we've just spoke about, we'd be going around, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? Is it in my head? You know, why am I so ill? And so, you know, you're just going and taking pills and not knowing what to do with yourself. So, and that's where I was at. I didn't know what to do with myself. I was taking tablets and things to help me cope. Yeah. And so this is why I like the idea of the ACEs and the psychotherapy and the NES system, because they are the tools, all the tools that really give us that empowerment, that make us have a more fulfilling and happy life. And one of my tools that I absolutely love, that I use in my therapies, I call it the miracle morning. And it's I explain to the client what the miracle morning is, and I tell them what mine is. And my miracle morning is something that good to do for yourself. Okay, so to nurture yourself, to self-care. And I would say I would take the pharmaceuticals. That would be part of my miracle morning. I would do the my health. That'd be another part if I needed it. I'd do my yoga. I'd do meditation. That for me is my miracle morning. Yeah. And so that's my tools. And they say if you start the day on a positive side, your energies are freer, you're more friendly with people, you'll get energy back from people, you'll get more smiles off people. So if you do something for yourself that day, it's going to help your well-being, and it's going to help you function even better in your everyday life. So what I do is I get my clients to pick what they want. So, and they normally, because they're on the pharmaceuticals that usually at this stage, they might take the pharmaceuticals, or they might use the myelf. Sometimes they hire the myelf off me, and they might use the myelf, or just the pharmaceuticals. It depends where they're at and what they want to do. And then they might pick a meditation, or they might pick an exercise they'll do, like they might go for a walk or a run or a cycle, or, you know, the different things that they would do, stretches. They make, I help the client, they have to make their decision, because I want it to be in the client's hands for it to empower them. I don't want to be saying, this is what you should do, blah, blah, blah. Everybody's different, everyone's unique, and what suits them is the right thing for them. So we work through what's best for them. So when we've decided what they're going to do in the morning, and some people might only have half an hour, so they try and work it out in that half an hour. I always make sure I give myself half an hour in the morning before my breakfast. If I'm lucky, I try and give myself an hour. I love an hour, but sometimes you don't, and life is like that, isn't it? It throws things at us. So they decide what they're going to give themselves. And then I say, right, okay, come back in a month's time. Some of the clients come back in a month, some come in every week. So I say, come back in a month's time or a week's time and let me know how you feel. So what I find then, when they come back, say in a month's time, I see the stress has come from being, oh, this is wrong, that's wrong, to I feel different, but I don't know what it is. Some of them might say to me, and I go, oh, right, great. And I can see the difference in their face. And then they say, I know what it is. I've looked at that, and I've looked at this, and I've worked through that, and it's fantastic. I've even had dreams about my childhood, and I go, yeah, sometimes that happens, and they've been really good. And so they're feeling better. Yeah. And what I find when I use these tools in my psychotherapy, with like the NES and the techniques I use in my psychotherapy, it actually works quicker than just psychotherapy alone. So combining it together is fantastic. And I'll just round that up with the ACEs, because the ACEs would changes your energy, changes your frequencies as a child. So you're bringing it through to adulthood. And so when you work on the psychotherapy and the tools and the NES, you're actually freeing that frequency up to help align the body, and so the body can heal itself, really, basically. So, yeah. That's
really exciting. I know we've only shared, like done one, shared one scan, because of client confidentiality, we're not really able to sort of do much more of that. But I think it's really interesting, isn't it, how you've managed, you've created this opportunity for your clients and future clients to get to the root causes a lot quicker than perhaps how you would normally just work conventionally, with psychotherapy. Whereas now it's sort of like, it's almost like a sort of a quick entry point in, but it's also, I know you're very aware of making sure that you're not working too quickly with clients and actually going at the pace that they need to go at. You don't want to sort of, to create any healing crisis for somebody. But I just find absolutely fascinating that, a scan will pick up so much information, and you just think, all I did was put my hand on that mousy thing, or I spoke into the computer for 15 seconds, and it's come up and it's telling me, showing me what's going on. And some of the stuff, it goes back, it's like goes back years and years and years, doesn't it? I think it's just incredible, and as a company, we're so excited when you decided that put your faith in us and in the NES system to be able to offer that to your clients. So well, just say thank you. Obviously, thank you very much for that. I know we can't really sort of talk about client testimonials in detail, and because of client confidentiality, especially with the work that you do. But I know there's one that you can just give us a few tidbits on, can't you?
Yeah, I'll just mention one trauma client, because we're talking about trauma and ISIS here. Yeah. And she came with flashbacks from her childhood. There was abuse and all that kind of thing going on, and she was always dissociating herself from her body. She could, and when a trigger would come in, someone would say something, she'd just leave her body. She'd disassociate, they call it in psychotherapy. And so it's like they're leaving them, and they can't function. Then the stress comes in, they don't know where they are, they don't know what they're doing, they don't know what they're saying, they're not communicating, the relationships are not working. And so then when I found, when I scanned her and she took the pharmaceuticals, that everything changed for her. She started having better relationships. She stopped getting less dissociated as the weeks went on. She weren't having outbursts of anger. Her relationships were improving, and I just thought, wow. And I remember her coming in, because she had to come for quite a long time, really, because of what was going on for her. And I remember as the weeks were going on, I'm thinking, this is working. This is moving. And then she came in one day, and she was like, she came from a child coming into me, a broken child, to this beautiful woman that was functioning with life and had a vision of her future. And it just really touched me. Yeah. And I just thought to myself, wow, this is amazing stuff. This psychotherapy with the NES and the energy medicine. I just think this is just amazing stuff. And so that's what I enjoy about my work. I love this work because I like the idea that I'm helping people empower themselves.
I think that's just part of who you are, isn't it? Your identity. I think your commitment to helping people is just it's just beautiful. Just before we wrap up, I know that not everybody is perhaps ready to take that leap of faith and sort of book an appointment per se and have a scan, and perhaps some people might not be ready to start that journey yet. But there are other things that they can do, and I know we have a field of what we call our field of range of pharmaceuticals, and there's a couple of pharmaceuticals that you have recommended to people as a starting point if they're not ready to take that sort of that quantum leap into having a scan yet. Do you just sort of cover those for us quickly, Joan? Yeah,
I usually, the feel-good pharmaceuticals, when they're not ready for the scan yet, because we're going at a slow pace, we go at their pace. I always work with what the client needs. And what I do is I introduce the pharmaceuticals if they're not ready for the scan. And so, and they might take the feel-good pharmaceuticals, which are these what we talked about earlier. Yeah. And the ACE clients usually as well, what it helps is it helps your stress levels come down, it helps balance your equilibrium, And what I suggest for my ACE clients is love. The love one is my favorite. And because these people that come to me that have a lot of ACEs, they've lost that self-love. They find they can't love themselves because they haven't felt that love from when they have had love. It's been knocked out of them, and so they don't know how to. They've lost that energy of love. So what the love pharmaceutical does is it opens the heart to receive love and to give love and to be more united with love and with yourself. So it personally supports your heart chakra and your crown chakra. And so when you say people that are feeling angry or hatred towards people, it helps this love institute helps soothe that pain, because that's your pain, and it helps soothe that pain. So that's why I like the love one. But there is another one I like as well, because it's called the heart driver, and this one helps the energy field. It helps you make better decisions, because you know, when you're in turmoil, or not even if it's from your childhood, in any case, you're in turmoil, something's happened and you can't think straight, you can't function properly, and you take the heart driver, and it helps mental clarity, and it helps you identify what's going on and integrate what's going on. It helps regulate the emotions, and it helps self-esteem as well. So it does help, you know, if you feel low in yourself because something's happened, it helps the lowest self-esteem. And funny enough, it helps skin tone, which if you've got low self-esteem, I know, and if you've got low self-esteem, you look in the mirror and your skin's not great, then you can take that as well, and it helps boost your morale.
Yeah, fantastic. So just before we close, I know I'm just going to sort of refer back to, you know, the people that inspired you initially, Joe Dispenza and Bruce Lipton. And I know there's a particular quote from Bruce Lipton that you like to, use. Are you happy to just share that with us?
Oh yeah, because I think love is the most important thing. It's the most important tool. And self-love, and that's what we all need, self-love. And I found this quote of Bruce Lipton's, and it just so resonated with me. And he puts, the most important growth promoting signal in the world today for humans is love. It exceeds nutrition. A child getting love will grow. A child not getting love will be stunned in their growth. Says it all.
That is just yeah. That, I mean, that's just a massive impact. And I think, you know, at the moment, you know, there's a lot of fear. And the opposite of fear, as we know, is love, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, and personally for me, I've been taking the love pharmaceutical every day, and encouraging, you know, my nearest and dearest to take it as well, because, you know, it's just that opportunity to reconnect with people and to help people not to not to be fearful anymore. You know, and I think, you know, I know your mission statement is about empowering people to live a healthy and happy and fulfilled life. And I think that's what really says it all about who you are. You know, and I'm just so happy that, you know, you came into my life, and, you know, we've actually become sort of lifelong friends now, haven't we? You know, in effect, which is just beautiful. But you know, I know anybody who's listening to this call and thinking, well, actually, I'd like to find out, you know, a little bit more about, you know, what they've been talking about, you know, how I can, you know, get to go and see Joan. So if you'd like to go to our website, which is neshealth.com, so neshealth.com, there's a little link on there. It's called Find a Practitioner. You can click on Find a Practitioner, and then you can put in a search in there for Burnley in Lancashire in the UK, and you can find Joan. So even if you're out of that area, you know, Joan can still do a consultation with you. She can talk to you more about you know, what we've been discussing today. So if you've got any concerns or just want to connect with her, we'd love you to do that. I would also love you to sort of go on to find out more about Nest Health and what we do and how we help people with their health and wellness. So just gave me to say thank you so much, Joan, for coming onto the call with this morning. I really appreciate your time. Your commitment to, you know, to helping people is just phenomenal. So thank you so much. Really appreciate you being here.
Oh, thank you, Ellen. It's been fantastic. Really enjoyed it.